Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Please switch on your videos, everyone. Your final chance to switch on your videos. You have to come to school from Monday onwards. But I'm getting goosebumps now itself. No. Are you not coming?
I am.
Huh?
I am.
Okay. So we completed till which portion? Which portion did we complete? Nobody knows.
Attention.
Attention. Yes, we completed till sustained attention, isn't it? Factors affecting sustained attention. Yeah. So we'll start with perception today. Perceptual processes. What is the name of the chapter? Sensation. Speak out. Sensation. After that, what did we learn about?
Attentional.
Attention. Yes. And finally, last one would be
Perception.
perception. Perceptual process. Okay. So we'll begin with perceptual process today. Write the heading in the lecture note. Perceptual processes. Please don't forget to bring your lecture note to class from Monday onwards. Okay.
Ma'am, I am marking in textbook.
Bring a new one. I'm telling for the further classes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Abhilash, start reading. Page number 97.
Am I audible?
Yes.
In the previous section, we have examined that the stimulation of sensory organs leads us to experience something such as a flash of light or a sound or a smell. This elementary experience called sensation does not provide us with any understanding of the stimulus that stimulated the sense organ. For example, it does not inform us about the source of the light, sound, or fragrance. In order to make sense out of the raw material provided by the sensory system, we process it further. In doing so, we give meaning to stimuli by using our learning, memory, motivation, emotions, and other psychological processes. The process by which we recognize, interpret, or give meaning to the information provided by sense organs is called perception.
Underline that. Please underline that sentence. The process by which we recognize, interpret, or give meaning to the information provided by sense organs is called perception. It is a meaning-making process, basically. Okay, then.
In interpreting stimuli or events, individuals often construct them in their own ways. Thus, perception is not merely an interpretation of objects or events of the external or internal world as they exist. Instead, it is also a construction of those objects and events from one's own point of view.
Yes. So this meaning-making process, it's not that we simply interpret something. This interpretation is not same for everyone also. Okay. We actively construct our understanding of that particular stimulus in front of you. For example, consider this as a frame or a canvas. Okay. What can you understand from this? Nalavika.
Ma'am, I'm not sure because I don't know.
Alina? Emmeline?
Ma'am, elephant.
Elephant. Mary?
Ma'am, I didn't understand anything.
Viram?
What was the question again?
What did you understand from this? What can you perceive?
I mean, a square box, there's a circle and different types of shapes.
Okay. Vilash?
And there's a random group of weird looking shapes.
That's all. Okay. Yeah, yes. No. Another box. Okay. What can you understand from this? Mary, did you understand anything from this?
Ma'am, different types of shapes. Triangle, circle, square.
Can you see a hexagon?
Yes, ma'am.
Where? There is.
Ma'am, I can see it properly.
No, I'm asking, can you see the hexagon?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, fine. Now, this is the third one. Okay. Malavika.
A happy face.
Happy face. Okay. Nestle,
Yes, ma'am.
what can you see here? The third one, which I drew.
Third one, just shapes.
You had some other nice.
Yeah, ma'am. My sister is having class.
Okay. Yes. What did you see here? I didn't.
Just shapes.
Third one.
Yeah.
This one, shapes.
Oh, this one. Yeah, smiling.
Smiley. Okay. Amal Roshan.
What?
What? What can you see here? This picture. I mean, this drawing.
I think so. It says
You think it's?
picture of smile.
Smiling face again. Okay. Abhiram.
And he's opening his mouth.
Who?
There's if he's smiling, the show teeth will be there, right?
Now I'm asking, what did you understand from this picture?
He's smiling.
He is smiling. He is smiling. You said he is smiling, no?
Oh, I don't know.
Now I'm asking, what did you say?
I said he's smiling.
He is smiling. Okay. Anybody else who would like to make a guess? Sanjana?
Ma'am, shape.
Shapes. Again, you can understand only the shapes from this. Which all shapes do you see here?
Circle and semicircle.
Circles and semicircles. How many circles can you see?
3.
3. One big circle, 2 small circles, and 1 semicircle, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we all had our different understandings of these 3 stimulus. And why I specifically asked you that is, it was not gender specific. he or she was not given, but still you perceived it in that way. You perceive this smiling face as a he. So we actively construct. It's not just simple interpretation of the stimulus in front of us. We rather make our own meaning. We actively construct our own meaning out of this. Okay, so that is happening in perceptual processes. So in the definition, we learn that this is the basic interpretation of the sensory stimulus that we receive. But when we elaborate on that, we can understand that it's not just a simple meaning making process, but we actively construct that meaning. Okay, and the meaning of a stimulus might not be the same for everyone, just as we did. This was the stimulus. This drawing was a stimulus, and it meant differently to different people. So based on different factors, which we'll be learning, based on the perceivers factors, based on the environmental factors that we'll be dealing with in the coming portion, the perception also changes. Okay, even if we are in a situation like we are facing a problem or a crisis, different people perceive it differently, isn't it? Then while maybe while we are going for a trip, just imagine we all are going for a trip, and the driver is driving this vehicle very fast. Some of us like speed, some of us are scared of speed. Okay, now we see another vehicle coming against us with the equal speed. Some of us would be scared because we perceive it as a threat. Some of us would be in a competitive spirit and we would enjoy it. Isn't it? Again, it's based on the perception. So whatever sensory stimulation we are getting, we actively construct the meaning of that stimulus in different ways. That's the point there. Okay. So I hope you'd underline the definition. The definition is the process by which we recognize, interpret, or give meaning to the information provided by sense organs. That is the definition for perception. Now, what happens in perception is the information comes, the basic information comes. What do we call that information? What do we call that information? Anything that evokes a response, what is it called? What is it called? Starting with S.
Stimuli.
Stimuli or stimulus. The stimulus comes from here. Okay. So what is the first process that we would engage in? First two basic processes that we engage in. We have already dealt with that in the previous portions. What would it be?
Sense it.
And? Sense it and?
Attend to it.
Attend to it, yes. So basic processes are sensation, attention. Both of this would happen. And again, this sensation would not give any meaning to the stimulus. Okay, if we have to understand that this is the thing in front of us, or this is the thing that we heard, or this is the thing that we felt, we have to engage in a process called perception. Then only we can actively construct the meaning of the stimulus in front of us. Again, in the last few classes, I talked about the dog's example, isn't it? When a dog is in front of you, you see the different parts of the dog, the furry hair and the forelegs, the ears, the sharp teeth, and all those things. So with that, you can sense it. Your visual image, your visual sensation is helping you to sense it. But along with that, if you have to understand that it is a dog, you have to undergo this perceptual processes. Okay, that's the thing that we are going to learn in the coming portion. We learn about the principles of perception, more about gestural psychology. We learn about the characteristics of the perceiver, that is the person who is perceiving. And yeah, and we have different cues which help us, that is from the environmental factors, we are getting information to perceive. That is also coming in this portion. Okay, now let's see the next portion, processing approaches in perception. Right, the next heading, processing approaches in perception. Processing approaches in perception. Have you heard of top-down and bottom-up processing? Top-down and bottom-up processing. Top-down and bottom-up. Have you heard of these terms before? Anyone? Yes or no?
I'm heard but don't know the meaning.
Okay, you have heard about it, but you don't know the meaning. Have you heard of inductive and deductive reasoning? Convergent and divergent thinking? Still no. Okay. So basically, we have two approaches in processing information. Like in perception also, we have two approaches. We either engage in top-down processing or bottom-up processing, and both of these interact together also. Like at a time, to perceive something, we might require top-down as well as bottom-up processing. It's not necessary that we use only, exclusively only one approach to processing the information. Okay, we'll see what they are. See page number 97. Okay. How we identify an object? It's a question. Do we identify a dog because we have first recognized its furry coat, its four legs, its eyes, ears, and so on? Or do we recognize these different parts because we have first identified a dog? What is your answer? It's the same dog example. When the dog is in front of you, would you perceive or would you interpret all these parts of the dog first and then understand that this is a dog? Or do you just perceive the dog and then go to its parts? Haven't thought about it yet, doesn't it?
Ma'am, aren't both the
Face.
same?
Aren't both the same?
Ma'am,
No.
perceive the dog first.
You would certainly perceive the dog first and then would give specific attention to its parts. Yes. Some individuals, if it is a small child who is just learning what a dog is, or just learning how to differentiate between a dog and a cat, they would be focusing more on the parts, isn't it? Like four legs, then the furry coat, and the color, the sharpened teeth, the type of ears, the tail, and so on. They would be focusing more on the opposite. So one stimulus itself can be perceived in both the manner, both in top down and bottom up processing. Now we are going to discuss what both of them mean. Okay. So the idea that recognition process begins from the parts which serve as the basis for the recognition of the whole is known as bottom up processing. Underline that. So in bottom up processing, what happens is processing goes from parts to the whole. So what would be top down processing? If this one is from parts to whole, what would be top down processing? Yes, the reverse. What is it?
Whole to part.
Whole to parts. Yes. From the whole to its parts. Devika, just read the heading of this.
Part, just a second.
No, what I've written on the board.
Okay. Processing approaches. Top down is from whole to parts, and bottom up is from parts to whole.
Okay. Now here, when you read this is your visual sensation stimulus, isn't it? Yes, you can see it. And so sensation is already happening there. You read it as processing approaches because you are already trained in English language. You are literate. You can read it. And what do you think was the approach that you use for perception? Top down or bottom up for reading? Did you put in more efforts to see each and every letter part by part, or did you just read it as a whole?
I think it is top down because I just read it as a whole.
As a whole, isn't it? Consider it as a whole. But imagine if this is, I'm asking the same to an LKG student. What would they be doing?
Bottom up.
Bottom up. They would be reading it as PROCESS, isn't it? Yes, from the elements, and then only they'll be learning the whole thing. Finally, sometimes if it is a second standard student also, what they'll do is they'll read till this PRO, then they'll say pro, then CES, then they'll read it as process, and finally they'll read the whole. But now you are trained in this, you have experience in this, and because of that you might use top down processing because you can easily perceive it as a whole. Understood. So when we are reading, especially adults and trained individuals, when we are reading and when we are writing something, we basically use top-down processing. Okay, and bottom up, it is used to go from the parts. That is, the processing happens from the parts or the elements or the units to the whole. Okay. All right. The notion that, the next line, the notion that recognition process begins from the whole, which leads to identification of its various components, is known as top-down processing. So bottom up means it goes from the specific basis to the upper parts, that is the general, from specific to general. In top-down, what happens is from the whole, that is from the general to the specific part. There's a difference. Okay. Then the bottom-up approach lays emphasis on the features of stimuli in perception and considers perception as a process of mental construction. The top-down approach lays emphasis on the perceiver and considers perception as a process of recognition or identification of stimuli. That is the thing. So see the difference? The bottom-up approach lays emphasis on the features of stimuli of perception, which means here the stimuli is focused. Stimuli or the stimulus, that is the focus. But in the other one, that is top-down approach, the emphasis is on the perceiver and considers perception as a process of recognition or identification of stimuli. Here, the focus is perceiver. Isn't that the same? Because just now Devika told that she used top-down processing. That is because she was trained in it. She knows English language. She has experience in reading already. So it's the characteristics of the perceiver that is affecting the perception, isn't it? But when it comes to bottom-up, it is the stimulus that is important or given more emphasis or importance or significance. Okay. All right. Understood the difference? Everyone? Clear? Nope. Now, next we talked about the perceiver. Now we are going to see, we are going to see which are the characteristics of the perceiver that would help in the perception process. Okay, there are 4 points given here. Please turn, yeah, it's in the same page, 97 itself. Perceiver, next heading. You have so many small topics in this chapter, but it's equally important. Okay, Mary, please read the first paragraph.
Ma'am, the perceiver.
Yes, start.
Human beings are not just mechanical and passive reception. Ma'am,
Recipient.
recipient of stimuli from the external world. They are creative beings and try to understand the external world in their own ways. In this process, their motivations and expectations, cultural knowledge, past experiences and memories, as well as values, beliefs, and attitudes play an important role in giving meaning to the external world. Some of these factors are described here.
Yes. So this section says that the perceiver, the person who is perceiving. Perceiver means the person who is undergoing the process of perception. So this individual is not just passive about this whole process. I told you we are actively constructing the meaning. We are actively making understanding the meaning of the stimulus in front of us. Active participation is there from our own side also. So based on different factors like motivation, based on our memories, based on our past experiences, based on our expectations, based on our cultural background, all these interpretations differ, keep on differing. Okay, that is, the perceptual processes are affected by these factors which are specific to the perceiver. Now, the factors that we are going to discuss here are the most important ones, the 4 points, and these are the characteristic features of perceiver that would influence the perceptual process. Understood? Okay, so we begin with motivation. First point is motivation. Okay, how do you think motivation would affect our perception? We are about to perceive something. There is a stimulus in front of us, and we have different levels of motivation. Remember, like that. Well, let's just consider like that. So, how would it affect our perception? Yes. Motivations, emotions, all these things. Have you noticed that when you're very sad, most of the things happening around you would be sad? You would like think of, or you memorize all the bad events that have happened in your life. Yes, and the stimulus, anything, maybe a drawing or a picture that you see would be, you would think that this is even more depressing. Yes, there is a chance, no? Because our motivation level, our emotional levels are all influencing our perception of that stimulus. That is why. Even if it is an abstract picture, even if it is a modern art that you're seeing, if you are in low motivation, in low mood and all, obviously that will be influenced in your perception. Okay, one example given here is when you're hungry. When you're hungry, even these abstract stimulus would remind you of certain food items. Okay, that is one example given. So we'll read that. The needs and desires of a perceiver strongly influence her or his perception. People want to fulfill their needs and desires through various means. One way to do this is to perceive objects in a picture as something that will satisfy their need. Okay, so in order to satisfy this need, we are perceiving it in that manner. That is the thing. So experiments were conducted to examine the influence of hunger on perception. When hungry persons were shown Ambiguous pictures. Ambiguous means, previous class I mentioned this word. Ambiguous means
Unclear.
unclear. The ones that are not clear, that we call ambiguous. So shown ambiguous pictures. Ambiguous means the unclear pictures or the blurry images, or maybe the poorly defined images. Some abstract pictures were shown to them. People who were hungry. Then they were found to perceive them as pictures of food objects more often than satiated, that is, non-hungry individuals present in the experiment. Okay, so people who are hungry, they perceive these stimulus or these stimuli as the food objects, food items. That is the example. Now, expectations or perceptual set. Before we discuss that, I'll show you a picture on the board. You'll see the picture of a rabbit. Just tell me if you can see the rabbit or not. That's it. Okay. Ready? Please look at the board. I don't know if you have seen this picture before, but still. Can you see a rabbit? On the right side. Yes, Devika? Abhiram?
Yes, ma'am.
Bilash?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Malavika? Vasudi? Abdul? Everyone? Anybody who could not see the rabbit?
Ma'am, I couldn't see the rabbit.
What can you see then?
Oh, okay. No,
You
I
have
saw the rabbit.
seen
Ma'am,
Kevin.
it's a seagull and a rabbit.
Seagull and rabbit.
Or some kind of bird, ma'am. I'm not sure whether it's a seagull.
Some kind of a bird. Does it look like a duck?
Not a duck.
Not a duck. Okay.
I'm a seagull.
Seagull. You're fixing that it's a seagull. Okay. So when
Yeah.
I asked you to see the rabbit, could you see it?
No.
No. Still no.
Now I noticed it, ma'am.
Now you notice it. Okay. Rare cases, I would say. So when we have this expectation that we would see a rabbit, we would be searching for the rabbit. Suppose if I would have given you an instruction, you are going to see a picture of a bird, you would be searching for the bird, isn't it? First, before the rabbit. Yeah. So our expectations or our what do you call this? Perceptual set. We call it perceptual set. In the previous section, we learned about a preparatory set. Remember? That means we prepare our mind to for it's a kind of keeping ourselves ready for something, for attending to something that was related to attention. Here we have perceptual set, which means we are expecting something to be perceived, to be interpreted by us. That is this particular stimulus. Now, when even when I told this, Kevin could not see the rabbit. Even I gave I tried to set expectancy in you. That is, a perceptual set was already set in you, but even then he could not see that, or he could not perceive that at first. Even though he can see the stimulus, he could not perceive it, isn't it? You already saw the picture, which means you have sensed it. The visual image is already there in front of you, but you could not perceive the rabbit because in the previous section I told you, right? We use two types of processing, top down and bottom up processing. And along with that, there are different features from the part of the perceiver as well as the stimulus that are affecting our perception. Okay. So it is because of the expectancy in you that the rest of you could see the rabbit at first itself. And it might be because of the stimulus factors that made Kevin interpret in another way. All right. Okay. So motivation is done. Now next is expectations or perceptual set. Perceptual set. The expectations about what we might perceive in a given situation also influence our perception. This phenomenon of perceptual familiarization or perceptual generalization reflects a strong tendency to see what we expect to see even when the results do not accurately reflect external reality. Even though the thing is not related to the reality, we might perceive something because we have an expectation. Okay, this is one of the tricks that are, what do you call them, magicians use. They first of all create a situation and they give us instructions. They give suggestions that we are going to see this or we are going to witness so and so things. So we'll be looking for that, and we'll be ignoring the rest of things happening behind. We won't be noticing all that. Okay, it's a psychological technique used by magicians. Then what happens? For example, if your mother, that's a very good example. Just see that. For example, if your milkman delivers you milk daily at about 5:30 a.m., any knocking at the door around that time is likely to be perceived as the presence of the milkman, even if it is somebody else. Okay, like if there is usual time period that the milkman comes, you'll be expecting that person. Even this happened with me once. That is, my dad used to come at a specific time in the evening after his work. Okay, so once what happened is when I was school going kid, the bell rang, and usually I called out to dad, come in, come. I called out something, and as if it was dad, but nobody is coming inside. Nobody came inside. We were still inside. My mom, my sister, and myself. We were inside, and we were waiting for him inside. And then after 1 minute, when I went outside and looked, it was somebody else, some salesperson or something. He wouldn't rather listen to my dialogue, isn't it? So again, we were expecting that. It's because of the expectancy, the perceptual set. That is, I was expecting my dad to come at that particular time. That's why. Okay. Next 2 points we'll see in the next class. We have one more class today, no? Yeah. So cognitive styles, cultural background and experiences, along with the introduction to gestural psychology, we'll see in the coming session. Okay, I'll take the attendance and leave you. Yes, Abdul. Present. Abhinav. Alina Jason. Lina Varghese. Devika.
Yes, ma'am.
Emilyn.
Yes, ma'am.
Eva. Malavika.
Yes, ma'am.
Mary.
Prasanna.
Meryl. Absent. Rose. Shreya. Abhiram.
Present, ma'am.
Abhijit. Abhilash.
Present, ma'am.
Mal Roshan.
Present.
Lazuri. Kevin.
Present, ma'am.
Omar. Sanam.
Present, ma'am.
Sandra. Sanjana.
Present, ma'am.
Nestle.
Ma'am.
Yeah, okay.